Okay, for the second layer of flesh, I am going to add a little bit of burnt umber, because I just want to add a little bit more color. And again, it looks dark, but it's not going to be as dark once we down there. And I'm going to add a little bit more of the yellow ochre. Again, I'm just eyeballing. Get my big brush out. It's going to be a warmer color. Just enough to move around on the vinyl. To get the color across. See the difference? The line. It's just a slight difference in color, but huge difference. When you do flesh colors, you want to stick with the mix that you started with, because the more, even if you don't, like I added the 2 extra colors in the second layer, even if you didn't add those and you add a second layer of just the same mixture, it's gonna get darker, because the more layers you add, the thicker the consistency of the color, the pigments will get. And as you'll see in all the layering that we've done, some people do green washes, blue washes, red washes, purple washes. I don't do any of that. This is the basics of how to do the most realistic without doing, because washes take the longest to do, because you can't really do much with it, because it covers the complete vinyl, so you can't really play around. Sometimes the hairs do bug me on the face that I don't like to see. But there is the second layer on the face. You can see the veining, the mottling. Very fleshy-like, and you can see the difference in what we started with to the color we have now. So we have the head. Again, just brush it on, brush it on. I love this. It's a warmer layer with the burnt umber and the yellow ochre. I love you can see the translucency of the skin. This piece, right? These pieces are driving me crazy. You can always pick those off later with a dry brush or a toothpick before you bake. It's just clumps of the paint that hasn't been diluted. Again, the difference in the color. And you can see the difference of these two pieces between the first wash and the second wash. And these washes, again, just cover everything because it's your base. So in the paperwork in the tutorial, I will make sure that, there'll be a breakdown of what colors I use, and then visually you can see in the video how I use them. For what colors were exactly used, but like I said, I don't do a specific brush stroke count or stuff like a lot of people use. It's art. It's art. So whatever looks good. Everyone will come up with their own signature. It took me, I watched tutorials and got as much information as I can. But you're going to find out what you like best. Like a lot of tutorials that I watched in the very beginning were, you know, they started out doing washes of skin tone and stuff, or no, you started out with veining, then you did scratch all that. Started out with neutralizing, which I've never neutralized a kit. I started 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago. I've never neutralized or had to neutralize a kit. Then do veining, then do layering of the skin tones, then do mottling, and it's too much for me to do. So what's comfortable for me and easier for me is to, I guess, work in reverse, which to me is more realistic, because your your mottling is not on top of your skin, it's under your skin with your veining. So learning the illusions and learning what's best for you. To me, what I do is easy and gives a really realistic look to, some people think it's very intimidating to start reborning because of all the layers. And the only time even with my new African American techniques that I've learned, I don't use that many layers either, compared to when I first started and I had so many different layers and layers and layers. So that will be another tutorial. So as realistic as possible and as simple as possible if you're a beginner. Okay, to me, it reminds me, I always thought of this growing up, looking at the inside of your palm. To me, it always reminded me of ground beef, which is really gross. It used to always gross me out. So if you compare the look, it looks similar. So that's always what I've tried to go after. It's kind of gross, but that's what it looks like to me and reminds me of. And again, before you put the pieces in the oven, you want to almost let it flash completely, and then go back with a dry brush and pounce your creases to make sure there's no pulled up paint or any paint that has ran. And I always use just enough paint to put it on, and then I could still move it all around. But sometimes it's still the way they lay here. Some will pull around the bottom and on the back of the calf. So you always want to double check your piece, make sure it's dry, and always check all the creases before you put it in. That piece is covered. And again, we'll do a comparison between the skin tones. You can see it's slight, but it's a big enough difference. Oh. Those pieces drive me crazy. And two, you want to be careful working around other kits that you're working on. Usually I work on multiple kits at a time, and I will have them like right around. But be careful, like doing this, it could splatter paint, or if I'm getting too close to this moving around, I could accidentally smear something on the face. So always double check before you bake. And then I've been mostly working in front of my computer the last, I would say, 6-7 months, but I do have a workroom that my work table is in front of a window that does get direct sunlight. So if you are working in front of a window with direct sunlight and you're working with heat set paints, you want to be careful, because I had Quinlan that I was working on, and I got distracted or something, and I had painted on it, and I didn't heat set it, but it was sitting on the table in front of the window, and the heat from the sun set the paint to where I didn't go back and pounce creases or whatever, so I really had to clean that piece up before I could start working on it again, because the paint had set from the sun, the heat from the sun, and I had to go back with a toothpick and clear out creases and scrape out creases, and I was able to, luckily. You know, it wasn't that big of a deal, but I do have a cat that stepped through my paint and then into the windowsill. So now I have, I believe it's yellow ochre cat prints in my windowsill that will not wipe away, or even cleaner I've used. I'm going to have to, I wanted to try acetone, but then that's going to take the white paint off my windowsill. So watch out for those working in front of windows and leaving your workout, if you haven't, leaving it there and forgetting about it, because, accidents do happen, and you wouldn't think that it would without, normally just leaving it on your table with the window open. So I don't know, I'll have to think about doing another layer. I kind of like this because I will be adding some of the blushing colors on. It doesn't look as dark in the camera, but I might add another layer, because I do want this baby to be a very warm, deep Caucasian color. So this is the end of layer 2. Same color.